Okay, so building Daniel's offer from scratch, he's already at 30K per month from one client. Now we have to redesign the offer that is in a way where we're going to get to 100K a month. So I want to do a quick disclaimer here. This is not going to be the classic video that you've probably watched in this space. This is going to be extremely raw, literally step-by-step rebuilding from scratch. So without further ado, let's go right into it. So Daniel, give him a quick 45-second breakdown of what your business is, where you're at right now, just quick context on where we're starting from.
Yeah, so my name's Daniel, and I run a business called Novaris Global. So we are basically growth partners for medical clinics, right? And currently we are sitting at around 30K per month with one client with one procedure. And we are really looking to scale, which is why Jesse is here helping me build out my offer.
Beautiful. All right. So quick overview so you guys have context on what is kind of the workflow on offer. I'm going to switch over to you for a second. So this is our software. I'm going to make sure that you're able to build your offer without having to have the software, because obviously if you're watching this video, probably not working with us just yet, but you're going to get all of the philosophies and still see the step-by-step what we need to do. And quite frankly, you can kind of just steal these questions and you'll see. So essentially what we need to do is go through all of these questions. And if you're watching this, you can kind of just pause the video and look through all of them. So this is going to be things like, okay, who exactly are we targeting? What is the outcome, time frame, methodology, factors of value, risk reversal, polarize what you do, the ultimatum, so best case, worst case scenario, what is the packaging, and obviously the pricing. One of the really important things that we're going to cover here is specifically who do we not want to work with, right? Because part of your current offer is you have the upfront fee and the retainer, but we also want to do a rev share. So we have to be very specific with who we work with, meaning that we have to say who we don't want to work with, which changes the buyer seller framework, which also means we need a lot of appointments, which we're using the Lumima system for. But let's dive right into it. So we're going to generate this offer. After we build this offer, what the software is going to do is give us a latent conditions report, right? So latent conditions report, it's just a psychology term for what are all the latent psychology conditions of a market. We have to understand the way that the brain thinks of who we're targeting to be able to see how to insert ourselves in a way that will let us demand higher prices. Now with Daniel, right? Where he's at in business and where you're at, right? I'll just speak directly to you instead of these guys. Essentially, what we need to do is have a way where we're able to collect a lot more cash up front, right? Because right now, the biggest bottleneck is going to be operations. We only have one client, but now it's like, okay, how do we get to 10 clients and still keep the high prices without suffering operationally? So the only way that we don't suffer operationally is if we have the money to be able to put into the operations, right? So you just brought on the media buyer with the current money that you have, but okay, how do we get all the other guys? So the setters, the creative guys, all that stuff, fun stuff, right? So that's where we're going to start upstream so we can collect a lot of cash, but we need to have an offer to be able to do that. So after we have that latent conditions report, essentially what we need to do is rebuild it all over again. So it's almost like we're going to fill this out, then break it back down, and then build it out again. And then I'm going to see based off of the output of this, how we can position ourselves. 100%. Easy. Okay. So a quick overview of what we got here also in the other tab. So essentially what we did is I had Daniel upload all of every single conversation he's ever had with his clients. Also all the conversations he's had with prospects and everything about his business. So it's a markdown file. What we're going to do is use all the information of his business, his sales calls, the conversations, and use them to answer these questions. Okay, so we saved you the pain of the 2.5 hours that we just spent going through every single one of these questions. But what I'm going to do instead is give you a quick run through of everything that we went through. So if we look at defined who, so what we did is go super broad. Now, but this is probably contradictory to everything that we've heard before, because it's usually like, oh, okay, we want to niche down, right? But if you have organic, and depending on the niche, very specific situations, going broad is actually okay. For Daniel here specifically, going broad is super important because of the nature of his business. He can't have competitors or have competing clients. And also the TAM of who he targets needs to increase dramatically. So if we want to get to 100K a month, we need to go ahead and increase that TAM. Now, we could get 100K a month with the current niche, but we just don't want to waste the time of working against ourselves by having competitors or by running clients that are competing. So a few things, right? Now, the big change that we're doing here is before he was positioned as an agency, right? Now, I want you to think about this, and this is packaging at its core, and this is why offer is so important. If you are a clinic, or if you're whatever your target audience is, if you are target, or if you go to them as an agency, they're going to expect agency prices. Now, if you go to them as a consultant, as a partner, now they're expecting something a lot more high ticket. That is simply the difference, right? Only thing here is, you've probably heard me say before, you always want to have logic-based pricing. Now, to be able to do logic-based pricing, you have to change your service delivery, right? You can't just throw a shiny name on your packaging and call it good. You actually have to, this is why I say your offer should stress you. It should push you to provide a new level of service delivery that you're not comfortable with before. So over the course of working with Daniel, and the way that we've been doing service delivery for this client is by adopting more responsibility, right? So what are the additional responsibilities that you've adopted for working with one of the doctors?
What do you mean by additional responsibilities?
So like before, the idea was just let's get more patients through the door, but now it's completely changed, right?
Oh yeah, it's how can we actually scale your medical clinic and become market dominators for your niche.
And how do you do that?
What do you mean?
So, right. So how do you do that? Like the pillars of what you do, right? So it's not just we run ads and we throw appointments at you.
We now do, market research. We do competitor flow analysis. We also do marketing. We also do operations, funneling, sales, consultation, best practices, just the whole thing.
So everything from A to Z.
Exactly.
Now, when you do everything from A to Z, you're no longer just an agency. You're consulting with them. You're hopping on calls with them. It's a completely new positioning. Now, yes, is that increasing operational complexity? Of course, right? But this is why I always say the Tesla model is absolutely beautiful. When we move upstream first, right? Higher ticket, right? Now we're able to get the margins to build out the operations, like I said, and then move downstream. So that is why we are repositioning this to get to those first 100K months by moving upstream, because it's going to make everything downstream a ton easier. So consequences of facing this problem, this is all these questions are just about actually knowing the pains that your target audience goes through, right? So they're getting killed by brand heavy competitors. So other competitors in this space, for example, have huge brands, hundreds of thousands of followers, whatever, and they're able to get a ton of patients that way. Now, they don't even have to run ads. So if you're a medical clinic that isn't brand dominant, then you're just going to suffer from all these other people taking up the market. Now, if we go with somebody who also has a brand and we put ads on top of it, oh my gosh, now they're also insanely successful. So I'm just going to scroll through a bit of these questions. They're not like, you can read them yourself, probably pause the video and get an idea. I'm not going to run through the philosophy of every single one of these because I don't want this to be literally a 5-hour video. The sun is coming up as we speak. But you can kind of just go through these and understand, right? Like, how do they feel once they have this outcome? Relief, not overstimulated, clarity and stability and serendipity, right? A lot of these doctors are, they're here to be doctors, not business owners. They've spent years of their life being a doctor. Now, when they finally feel like they've made it, they've opened their clinic and now they're ready to scale. It's like, wait, I have this whole other hill to jump over. And you'll notice the depth in which we're going here with their journey of their pains. Now we're creating the offer to directly attack those pains. Because now there's only two things that come into like when buying. It's pain and also confidence. If we have the confidence in our packaging that we're going to get the results, we're doing everything A to Z, that's where perceived value increases. The pains is where we're saying we've figured out all their pains here. So if we're saying we're solving the pains that they didn't even think anybody knows about, now the amount that we're able to charge is also super high. This is going to come into our pricing model, which I'm going to get to in just a second. Last thing that we're going to touch on, which is also with the pricing that we're going to dive into, is the way the pricing works is just a price to value discrepancy. So what you charge compared to what the perceived value is. Perceived value, not real value. That's super important. That's why people charge based off their time, and it's stupid. The distance between the two is how much you're able to charge, right? Right now, the way that we're positioning him as being a growth partner rather than just an agency is pushing that line of perceived value up to the top. Now, the way that we're going to price him is still going to be taking a chunk of that perceived value, but in a way where he's able to have a lot of cash flow. So yeah, I'll scroll through these so that you're able to see if there's any important ones You can kind of get the gist, right? And also just being able to, in 45 days, they're able to get them an additional 100K in revenue. Obviously, it's a business model that's going to be very possible or very profitable. And notice some of these are just no, 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 none. Reason is because, I'm the owner of the software company, right? So I understand how the software works. And since I was able to consult him on every single question here, we're able to bypass some of that stuff. But the questions themselves will be super valuable. So I'll just scroll through a few more of these too. One thing that I want to point out here. What is the name or methodology of the system? Why didn't we go with something that's like super fancy and logic based like I usually preach? Well, with his name, he has something very unique. Like okay, what does Novaris mean?
It means something like new, novel.
Novelty,
Right, exactly.
right? Novelty in Latin. So these guys have stimuli hypoesthesia to agencies. What is stimuli hypoesthesia? It means they've heard the classic pitch. We'll get you leads. We'll get you influencers. We'll do all these things. They've heard it over and over and over again, and they're tired of it, right? We want to go the Apple route because Daniel's goal is to get this to a $1 billion agency, which is a big, big goal. If we think in $1 billion terms, we want to think of other $1 billion companies. For example, Apple. Apple is a food that you eat, but they're a software company. So we want to create so much novelty around a single word that he is known globally. And he is the non-negotiable. You have to go to these guys to scale for the biggest people that are in the medical space. So that is why we're going to go with a very unique in packaging of the methodology. For most, this won't work. For most, if you're just a classic agency, you have to go with a logic-based packaging. But for him, it's a little bit unique. This is also the benefits of being able to work with, me in person, right? So anyways, you can go through all of this, probably pause the videos. Risk reversal, if we don't add 100K a month, then they get a full refund. Polarize, who is this not for? This is not for the smaller people. Also for people who have big egos, because since we book a ton of appointments, we're able to flip that buyer seller dynamic. Ultimatum, you make a ton of money, or you keep the money we make you. And then packaging, we want to focus on demonizing. So this is very important, right? The way we're going to package him. So let me start with this. So one of the laws of persuasion is throw rocks at a common enemy. Now, if we package him in a way that is saying everything that you've tried, so these doctors feel like they've tried all these different people and they just don't work, right? Nobody's packaging themselves as an acquisition partner. So if we throw rocks at the common enemy saying, I'm guessing you tried a marketing agency, I'm guessing you tried influencers, I'm guessing you tried XYZ, we don't do that. And we don't do that because we think it's unethical because obviously, like you don't get results. The only way that we can guarantee results like we do with our bold guarantee is to take care of the acquisition from A to Z and actually consult you on every step of the process. Now, since he's the only person that does this, that's how he's able to increase perceived value and start demanding really high prices and get to those 100K months. Last thing is going to be the pricing. Now, we're changing the pricing structure. So there's really cool things that you can do with pricing as soon as you start adding services, because it gives you leverage when you have more responsibility in service delivery. This is also the really cool thing with moving up market. Now, we're going to do a high ticket and a lower ticket, right? And this lets us use price anchoring on the sales call. On the high ticket end of things, we are going to say that we have a 30K setup fee, and we're going to take a 17.5% rev share. Now, for the 30K setup fee, we're also going to say you only pay it once we get you your first 2 clients. Now, think about this offer. If they get 2 clients, they already cover the 30K. So it's like free, right? But we still get the cash flow. And we're able to get those clients pretty quickly. Yes, the cash flow is slightly delayed, but our service delivery is so locked in, and we have the money from the first client to be able to guarantee that we get that. Now, this lower ticket offer is going to be, okay, well, you don't have to do the setup fee, but then we get the 20% rev share instead. And we also take away one of the services, which is part of the sales consulting, right? So why is this so strong? Well, if it's 20% rev share, we make a lot more money, right? So that's a win. If it's the setup fee, we make money up front, which is also a win. So either way, it's a win-win for us. Doesn't matter. The other cool thing, and this will be very important for you for on your sales calls, is when we do the price presentation. So we're going to start off and say, okay, so there's 2 ways that we do things. The first way that we usually do things to get you the best results is we're going to do the setup fee that I just said, and then also a 17.5% rev share. This gives us X, Y, and Z, so all the pillars of his methodology. which, by the way, you always want to round off your pillars. So break up into simple terms. Like my example, as you probably know from watching this video and from all my other stuff, is offer, organic, appointment booking systems / pre-call nurture systems, and then sales. And then the back end off of that is infrastructure and scale, right? So I have clearly defined pillars that we use in our pitch. Now for him, what we're going to do is we're going to present all of those pillars, and then we're going to say it's that high ticket offer. Now, if they're like, I don't know about the setup fee, it's a little bit much, blah, 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 which they probably won't, just because the way we structured it with they have to sign 2 clients first. If they say no, so we're going to say absolutely no worries. Only thing we take off is this, which is part of the pillars, and then we get 20%. So it's still a win-win. The close rate is going to go way through the roof because the price and the value is structured in such a strong way. And yeah, that is the idea. Now, quick thing I want to reference here is that we were able to create all of this in depth because of all the information that we've gathered from every single sales call, literally everything. Now, on top of this, we now have our offer generated through the software. Now, you might be wondering, oh, well, I don't have the software. Well, you can do your best due diligence, do the client interviews, take all your transcripts, blah, 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 run it through AI. That's going to be your best bet. Do your own research, right? Now, we can break down what this is. So I want to break down the short form message, right? Be a doctor, not a marketer. If you remember what I just said earlier about the journey that a pain of a doctor goes through, it's the same exact thing. So it targets that, right? I guarantee you, you look at any other agency that is targeting their clinics, they are not running this positioning. That alone, those 5 words, what are 6 words, that alone differentiates us, right? On top of that, we start stacking on the fact that we're a growth partner, not just an agency. Even bolder, even stronger, we're demanding higher prices, right? And you could see we add an additional 6-7 figures in monthly revenue to medical clinics doing 2.5 million plus within 45 days, delivering everything that I have here. Extremely, extremely powerful. Then you can see an example here. I won't go through the entire thing because I don't want to leak his entire offer. But you can see that it's just extremely in depth. It's very clear. Now we're able to build his appointment booking systems in a very specific way. Now he's able to start organic and take over the market globally because he knows exactly what to make videos on. And we're also able to engineer a sales process that pre-handles all these objections. We're able to create a pre-call nurture system that pre-handles all these objections. We just know everything about who he's targeting. That is the power of an offer. This is how we are going to scale to 6 figures a month extremely quickly because of how strong this offer is. Because of the amount of work that this guy has done with his business, I've had a decent amount of experience talking with agency owners. I haven't seen somebody that works as hard as him. Simple as that. Last thing I want to touch on here as part of the offers is that now we have this latent conditions report. Now this is straight butter. This is butter. This is the cherry on top of everything. We now know the exact language that they use. We know their emotional vocabulary. What do they say in their head, right? We know their industry terms. So we know that, okay, they do have a little bit of marketing term knowledge, right? So they use CAC, right? They use EBITDA. They have all of these. So lead to consult, right? So there's slightly different terms than the marketing people. So the 6 pillars from their perspective. So the 6 pillars is the mental framework that humans take for making any decision. Whether it's to buy a gift, whether it's to go to the bathroom, whether it's to do literally anything. So let's go ahead and actually dive into what are these 6 pillars for your niche, right? So what is their core drive? So protection of professional reputation and conversion of clinical credibility into durable enterprise value. Okay. The sources describe cosmetic and plastic surgery as among the most scrutiny. Oh, interesting. Okay. Specialties become patients who choose based on trust and visible results. Okay. The owner status is inseparable from the public review. So this actually aligns. This aligns a lot. So part of our research and also our transcripts shows that brand identity was absolutely huge to medical clinics. So understanding that their core drive is almost like social credit, we're going to be able to leverage that in all of our ads, our organic, everything. And also in the way that we do our pitch, when we retie to value, we know that we need to retie to this core drive, right? So everything is going to be engineered around this core drive. The goal, it's probably going to be the classic goal. Practice whose economics match with this clinical quality. Yes, of course. Strong earner take home, transferable EBITDA, not just top line revenue. Important because now we know we can't use language that only focuses on top line. Valuation source review shows that the revenue is not the same as the owner take home. Also important, we need to talk about what they actually take home, not just the revenue, right? Problem, high customer acquisition costs and overhead can lead to commercially stuck. Okay. Meanwhile, the demand is gated by a long multi-platform trust research process the client does not fully control. Okay. Extend the research window. Soon as the touch of okay, so this is interesting. So this is actually means that clinics are problem aware. Now, this is so important because when it comes to making content, you need to know if you need to make content that is making your clients or your prospects, your target audience, problem aware, or if they're already problem aware and they're looking for solutions. So now we know that we can be more technical and we can move kind of like quicker through the funnel in all of our positioning for all of our acquisition systems. We're trying to get to these six-figure months, eventually 7 figures. So this is also very important for us. The emotional experience is inferable structural facts. The source established margin pressure. So that's going to be very important. We have to position ourselves in a way that makes sure that they feel confident in their margins, right? Inside elective out-of-pocket category and single review, can have booking the visiting founder side of itself. Questions available tools. I built a system I cannot review the system I couldn't buy. Okay. The action, documented behaviors, investing, of course, confidence. What are the sources of this market stuff? So, okay, so the testimonial video that we're about to record is going to be very important, of course. Structures or noisy claims. And this is a good thing too. So confidence, like I just said earlier, is extremely important. Since we're positioning ourselves as covering A to Z, it directly attacks that this noisy claims, right? Because if we're just an agency that runs ads, they're going to be skeptical of all the claims that we have. Since you are now a partner, we take care of all of this. So it protects that. Anyways, I'm not going to run through all the cognitive biases of this niche. As you can see, the offer takes a lot of work. You can probably notice we're a little bit tired here. It is currently 5:11 a.m., so we've been in the trenches a bit. But the understanding all of these are also important because we now know how to run different angles. And obviously, here's the pain points and objections that we need to attack before they get on a call. And also some resonance opportunities and some insights and some other stuff. So what is all of this to say? So we are pretty much officially, or no, not pretty much, we are officially done with the okay. So now that we have the offer in place, now we just have to go over the full acquisition pipeline and all the infrastructure they have to create. So essentially, once we have the offer, the next things that we need to create will be organic. Then we have appointment booking systems to place on top of the organic. And then we have the sales. The back end, we're going to throw on, we have to have operational efficiency. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make this a little bit of the right size. And that should be fine. Okay, so we already have the offer dialed in, so we just cross that out. So the organic strategy for what we have to do here is we have to identify, okay, what are we going to do on organic, right? We already know all the objections. We know everything that we need to get in place. What are we going to do on organic? So there's 2 interesting things here. So YouTube is always a non-negotiable because we need them for the pre-call nurture system, right? So the pre-call nurture system inserts itself right here between the appointment booking systems and the sales call, right? So with you, since you're going broad, having YouTube and organic in place is a non-negotiable, right? If you try to run an outbound system and you're not niche specific, it's not going to perform very well. They have to know who you are before you start stacking on an acquisition system. Other thing that's cool here too is you have taken the responsibility of the full pipeline for these guys, right? You understand this space and acquisition for the space and all the minute details better than everybody else, right? So that means that you have a huge opportunity on YouTube to be able to create complex ideas and show a immense display of competence to be able to convert these guys, right? So the question is like, okay, well, do these guys even like aggregate on YouTube? Well, I guarantee you, people think like, oh my gosh, these guys are never on social media. They're doctors. Well, no, when they have an issue, they're going to look up how to fix it, because where else do they go? You know what I mean? So with YouTube, there's a few things that we need to get, right? We're going to break down, and that's what we're just about to record with the doctor, is we're going to break down like video testimonials, but we're going to frame them. Sorry, my terrible writing tests. So we're going to frame them as the complete system to be able to get high ticket paying clients that trust you, right? Since trust was a big thing. So in the video testimonial, it's going to be extremely important that you have that doctor talk about how the patients that he was talking to, like, remember how you told me he had deep conversations with them? We have to get him to talk about that on the video, right? Because since we know that they care a lot about brand identity and things like that, they need to see that solution in this video. But if we just make this like an interview, then they're not going to watch the thing. So we have to do the best of our ability to frame this as value-based video, not an interview. So that's going to be number one. The next one is going to be value-based. So this is where we get into Miro boards and you start breaking down systems for free for them so they can try it on themselves. This is really powerful for you. Reason is because these guys are doctors, not marketers. They're going to look at what you say and tell them to do if they want to do it themselves, and they're going to be terrified. They're not going to want to do it at all, right? All of these are going to funnel into this one asset that's going to be really important. It's going to be organic VSL. This is probably going to be like an hour 30, hour 15 video where you're breaking down the entire system. So the pillars that we created, right? So I believe it was the laws and regulations, then it was the market research, then it was the next one was audits of what they currently have in place. Positioning, yes, that was so positioning so that we can create the trust with the audience. Then it was actually running the ads. Then it was the pre-call nurture system. Then it was making sure the sales are in place, and then also stacking on the operations to be able to make sure that they can handle the patients and have everything smooth and they don't have to worry about it, the business side, right? We're going to take all of those pillars and we're going to create this organic VSL. At the end of this organic VSL, we're going to have a hard CTA. This is book a call, right? Then we're going to start triggering the pre-call nurture system that we have, right? This is going to be the big thing that we have to make sure is super, super, super good. We're going to spend a lot of time on this, right? Every single person that books from this organic VSL is going to be dying to work with you. They don't care the price. They don't care what it is, because of all the stuff that we did here, because of the results that we've already gotten in literally just the month of working with that guy. They are going to be begging to work with you because nobody's ever seen this before from anybody. You're a market of one officially because of the offer. Okay, so that's going to be the organic plan. The issue now is, okay, we started a new YouTube channel. Nobody's watching the video. You're not famous on YouTube. So how do we fix that? Now, you might think doctors, they're usually older. They're not on Instagram or short form. Well, here's the cool thing about your niche. They know that their clients, people that want breast augmentation, for example, are on Instagram. So they've been forced to be native to that platform. And Instagram's algorithm is going to train them, because it knows that they're a medical clinic, they probably have a business profile, to see video posts about your space, right? So we talked about, what was that guy's name that's well known in the space for helping? Sam Patel, right? He's a great example, probably on their feed. So we're going to use Instagram as the top of funnel. So I have the frameworks on how we're going to position this, but in the beginning, right, we need to get 60 posts just to get your algorithm trained and get that out the way, right? After we have those 60 posts up, then we're going to start focusing on more high quality stuff, because we want to look really professional to work with clinics, right? The big thing is just display competence and curiosity, and then send them to these assets from the top funnel. We're going to do that through lead magnets. So many chat automations and whatever we need, just to eventually get them to the VSL. Notice everything is going towards this VSL, which is going to send them to the booking link. Once we have all of this in place, now we can move on to the appointment booking systems, which you already have one in place. There's the Loom email system, which puts you 30 appointments in a week, right? When we stack on the appointment booking system, this is why we also have to update your website, by the way, right? because when they book, we need to, on the website, if they start to investigate you, because they will, we need to somehow get them back to this organic VSL through that website. Whether we put that as the top video, whether it's a quiz funnel, whatever it is on the website, we need to get them back to this, right? So the appointment booking system, we're going to set the domain redirect when they click on your email back to this. And then also in the Loom video, we also have to restructure in the email everything according to this offer that we just built. Now on the Loom video, we can also overlay like a screenshots and stuff like that, or a slideshow presentation, right? We can take the interview that we have in the results and also put that in the Loom video. So there's social credit, there's trust, perceived likelihood of achievement. And also just because of the positioning and loan, dude, the Loom emails might even do even better than they already did, which is insane. We're going to have more appointments than we need. This is great because it means we can honestly just reject anybody who doesn't want to do the setup fee. So the cash collected is going to be super high. That the cash collected alone, not even the rev share, probably get us to 6 figures a month. Seriously, like it's insane. Last one is going to be the sales system, right? Your offer is so strong that you're going to have to try to mess up the sales calls. You're going to be just fine on the sales. As far as for the sales system, the only thing I have to change is we have those 6/7 pillars. We have to implement that into the pitch and figure out how to deliver that in a way that's super simple, right? And align the pillars with the psychology that we figured out in the latent condition support. So it's just going to be dialing in the sales process. Ops, we have higher margins, right? We have cash flow from the first client. We're currently building that out, as you know. That is it. All of this in place from the offer. We will get to that 6-figure mark within the next 3 months. Any last questions that you have for me?
Sounds good, bro.
I think we're both very tired. Yeah. Okay. How many hours do you think you spent on this?
Like it's 5:23. It's like 3.5.
3.5 hours. But now we have a banger offer that will get us 6 hours. Okay. That is the offer. Hope you got some value. If you didn't get value, don't subscribe. If you did get value, subscribe. We're going to go to bed. I'll see you.